All right, guys. Good morning to some, good afternoon to the rest. Because in amid this coronavirus, the volatility it's created, we're going to have a short and sweet event because I want people to get back to either practice on getting up to speed or if there's opportunity to be able to be in front of it. But I will tell you this, the people I'm in front, most of the people are having success with this volatility, and there are some on the other extreme that have gotten killed. There are some that have had record weeks, record days, their best days, stories like that, and others that have lost 50% of their account. There are people that are trading with delayed data and maybe not realizing it. I just did a survey of people that are putting in buy orders when they're sell orders or leaving orders in the book, some mechanical mistakes that are avoidable. And you're always going to know that. You're always going to know, or I should say that those are always going to happen when markets are faster. You're going to get away with that kind of slop when they're slow. But when you're sloppy and the markets are fast, you're going to get screwed. Another way to put it. So you got to slow down the market and be able to manage. You are an absolute pro at your dome or however you want your orders. Nobody does it better. You don't have to make money to be a pro at your dome. All right? But everybody who makes money is a pro at their dome, getting in and out and everything else. So cover that stuff. Minimize, but then use the word to eliminate the mechanical errors that you have on your dome, because when the markets are moving fast, 99% of the time you leave an order at a book, it's a loser, or you want to buy it and sell it, it's a loser, and then it's frustrating you and it knocks you off your game. So do yourself a favor, do the exercises for you Edge Elite guys. If you're not an Edge Elite guy, you should become one, because you get access to all that Course 4 stuff, all those exercises, all those additional videos, plus the team room, which is going really well. And that's what you need to keep you off your island, which is going to segue into this story that I'm going to tell. Because at some point at the bottom of this screen share, you see you have to trust something at some point. What do I mean by that? And Kenny, are you here? Vertigo story. Now, Kenny's a pilot. We won't get too much into that other than conversation I'm having with him. And this wasn't what I was going to talk about today, but it was perfect because it's shorter amid this volatility. And by the way, next week, we're going to do the Tuesday session at 3:30 Central, not 11. You'll get an email about that. 3:30 Central, not 11. Just make sure you know that. Hold on a second. Mark it on your calendar.
Treasuries of agencies that are seeing big moves as the market struggles to gauge the risk from coronavirus.
Now, where was I? Vertigo story. You guys are pilots, mostly, not everyone, but most of you guys are pilots. And I wanted to, I'm not going to do that in this session, Mike. I wanted to tell this story because that's what's fascinating about talking about or to other people and other jobs that they have. And then also how they could relate it to trading and how you shouldn't relate some of the skills and strengths that you have in other businesses to trading, because sometimes the opposite works. But what's key is to understand that at some point you have to trust something. And trust is easy when all the evidence is there. Well, it's not really trust, is it? The toughest time to trust something or someone is when it's the hardest. So in a conversation with Kenny, now listen, this is more of a story than it is some sort of tutorial or going to charts. But Vertigo, as a pilot, is thinking you are upside down, or if the plane is generally, this is the wings of the plane is going and flying fine, but you think it's tipped like this and rolling over. You could swear that the plane is doing this, right, Kenny? And yet it's fine. On your instruments, and I went over this with them, you have this attitude indicator that tells you if you are the right altitude and right left based on the middle. And yet you think you're down here. Tell me if I'm doing something wrong, Kenny, when I'm illustrating this. But you're actually where you should be. But if you literally think black and white that you're down here, then it's almost like someone telling you, today's not Tuesday. If someone came to us and right now argued and said, today is Wednesday, we'd think he's crazy. But he thinks today is Wednesday. No, it's Tuesday. It's really hard to trust something when no matter what, you think you're rolling over to the right. So what happens, I would imagine, right, Kenny? In order to get yourself straight, you roll over, you compensate and go left. So now you're literally over here because you didn't have to do anything. And so what hit me yesterday was not the fact that, well, you got instruments. You should learn people learn how to read their instruments if you know how to read instruments. It's not reading the instruments. It's trusting the instruments. That's what hit me. Anybody could learn those instruments after a certain amount of time of training. It's trusting them. Anybody could learn the footprint and what buying and selling is telling you. It's trusting them. When you have vertigo, how do you have vertigo outside a plane? You're long, you're short. That's your vertigo as a trader. When you're long, you have vertigo. And the vertigo is you think the market's going up and you'll find and look for any indication that you're right. Certainly not wrong. You'll find any indication that you're right, that you're rolling to the right. In this case, a vertigo in a plane. That's what we do. We will fail our strategies well before our strategies will ever fail us. Period. And the faster markets move, the more people it wipes out because the more evident it is of attacking your weakness. If you get out of sorts and you get mad and you're going to have a lot of that during the last week and a half. If you're a cowboy and it's a casino and you're just clicking around, you're going to lose a lot of money in the last week and a half. You're going to get away with that kind of crap in normal markets, not in these markets. And all it takes is one trade to turn you into a psycho, to turn you into, I think, and this isn't a psycho, this is a real psychological issue, that you think you're over here and now you compensate. Now you are in the wrong position. And it's documented with pilots and all the time why they crash. You have vertigo, and nothing, including an instrument, often tells you that how hard would it be for an instrument to say, stay, you're fine. Or this was the real, now listen to this one. This one to me would be the toughest thing to do as a pilot. And you guys that are pilots, you can correct me if I'm wrong. One of the toughest things to do is in your attitude meter, you are actually rolling a little bit. All right. So far, so good. You better pick it up or you're going to eventually crash because you're not centered. You should be in here. You should be in this area. You're rolling. But your vertigo thinks that you are fine. Your vertigo says you're fine. But you're lower and turning you're going lower and you're turning to the right. But your vertigo says, don't do anything. So now you actually have to trust something that's telling you it's Wednesday. Today is not Wednesday, it's Tuesday. I know today is Tuesday. And yet your mind, someone's telling you it's Wednesday and you think it's Tuesday, maybe because it was Tuesday or it is Tuesday. That's how the point is that's how right you think you are. As right as you might think that today is Tuesday when someone's arguing that it's Wednesday. You know how right you feel right like that? You know today is Tuesday. He's wrong, you're right. What I'm trying to do is the equivalent of you know that you are fine. You're going like you should, and your instrument's telling you you're rolling down and to the right. Now, here's why to me it's the toughest action, one of the toughest actions a pilot would have to make. And that is to grab that yoke and actually pull it to get you the center. Because in your mind, you're pulling it and you think it's pulling you this way because you think you're fine. I shouldn't be touching this thing. I'm fine. You think you're actually committing suicide by pulling this thing down and to the left because it's going to fire you into the ground. Because you think you're fine, but your instrument that you have to trust is telling you you're not fine. You got to recenter here. You got to come up and you got to come to the left. But you think you're going to be pulling on this thing and taking you out of line. And now you got to, it's tougher to do nothing, right? It's tough enough to do nothing. It's even tougher to do something that you think, it's like cutting the wire on 3 wires, and one of them you cut will engage the bomb and the other one will disengage the bomb, right? See movies like that? You cut the wrong one. That's almost, to me, how it would kind of feel if you got a real bad vertigo situation. So vertigo is not, he's crazy. No, it's real. And we face it every day when we're long and we're short. We face symptoms of it. And think about that. How hard is it to follow your plan when you don't trust your instruments? The co-pilot is kind of like me in the team room. The coaching sessions I do is kind of like a co-pilot to talk to, because you get vertigo inside the day. You might have vertigo in between training sessions. You might be on this is what I've always said, the most dangerous path in life is the wrong path, but you're hopping along it thinking it's the right path. So that's why this story just really lit a light bulb for me to help me help others going into how much of a cloud you're in. And it's not your fault. It's your fault not to do anything about it. It's your fault not to have some trust at some point. That's the whole notion of manage your risk before you take it. Know you're getting out before you get in. It's helping you trust something. Because once you get in, you have elements of vertigo. You think the market's going up. Maybe you're the only guy that thinks it's going up in the whole world. You're not objective anymore. And when you have vertigo, I guess the bottom line is it's going to create less objectivity. And the reason why is because you think everybody else is crazy. You know what you know, and you could be assured to it like today is Tuesday. And so when someone says Wednesday, people think you're crazy. This is, I think, one of the better, I agree, Bruce, a great analogy. Even if you don't fly an airplane, even if you never got vertigo. But vertigo is, think about all the training that pilots have to say that this meter here, this attitude, it's just showing you're fine. But if you don't think you're fine and you don't trust that meter, you're not going to be fine. Or if you think you're fine, and this is the most dangerous, and you're not fine, you're over here, you actually got to do something against your feeling. And that's what trading is. Trading is doing something against your feeling. And being long or being short creates the feeling. If you're long, you create a bullish feeling. If you're short, you create a bearish feeling. And you want things to look, and sometimes you'll look at something and not trust it. You'll be long and see the NASDAQ ready to go down and go down, nah, that's fine. That would normally get me out, but not now. I'm gonna ignore that one. Gold goes up, and I'm gonna ignore that one. You're not going to be able to be consistent if you don't trust what it is you're looking to do before you open the position. That's why you got to have a plan so that when you get into a fight, you're trained to be the objective guy in the fight. The objective guy in the fight generally wins or gets hurt less. And then think of what Dorian just said. And even though we all know this is still the cause of some of the biggest crashes. I don't think you really understand how much you're sold on thinking you're somewhere you're not until you have it. Is that fair to pilots out there? I don't think you truly know the power of vertigo in a plane until you've had it. And I think you're sold on it. And then I think that if you don't, maybe your instruments are failing you too. Now, you know, who knows what kind of trouble you're in. The pilots agree. You don't know what vertigo is and what it does to you unless you've had it. And I think there are elements of it when we trade that our mind is doing everything it could do to convince us we're not wrong. Or when you're fine and you think you're over here, you're fine. Stay the course. Don't touch anything. You're fine. Like if you're long and it's going up, you're fine. Nothing's happened to get you out. Nothing's happened to get you out. You know, let's come down a little bit. No, nothing's happened to get you out. So it works both ways. It's not just getting you out of losing trades. It's keeping you in winning trades if you're supposed to keep in. Bottom line is it's keeping you objective in a very, very subjective environment. In fact, it's keeping you objective when you already think you're objective, but you're not. And a lot of people, I think, struggle with how crazy decisions you make when you're drunk with emotion. And that's why accountability before, during, after trades are so crucial. Because, this story came out of working one-on-one with someone and how illuminating it is to share with the rest of the group, because you got to trust your instruments. And what are your instruments? Your charts, your dials, if you got them, your patterns, your don't, whatever your skill set is to build your strategy. You got to trust it. Yeah, but listen, if I relied on my best trades are ones I felt most uncomfortable about before I got into them. That's not always going to tell you your best trade. And the ones that you're most confident about, every moon in the world's lining up. You get in, you didn't stand a chance. You felt great about it, though. What beats us up the most is inconsistency. That's what kills us. Not taking losing trades that we're supposed to take. What beats us up the most is inconsistency. It really does. A little piece goes away. You're supposed to go to the gym. You don't do it. A little piece of you goes away. You're pissed. You procrastinate on something. You get pissed. You're supposed to stay in that trade. Nothing showed you to get out. You didn't. It was a winner. You're pissed. You're supposed to get out of that trade. You didn't. It's a bigger loser. You're pissed. You got less money and you didn't do anything to build momentum and consistency. So that's my story. I want to keep it short, even if it went a little longer. Hard for me to tell people based on it's hard for me to tell people this last thing is that you guys are if you struggle like trading beforehand, you got to really take it slow and simple. This isn't the market that you're going to start being successful in if you haven't already. This is the one that you're going to get killed in. So you got to take your time. You got to take your time and cut your size. If you are, even if you're making money, this is the time to cut your size because naturally your risk is going to be increased. Last thing I'll leave you with, because it's a weekly session, not everybody's in the trading room, but the last thing I'm going to leave you with is what's next? Now we had the Fed. Hopefully you're prepared for the Fed to do what they did, and they did it today at 9. It's a half a point. What's next? And what's next is any kind of, now they go into a blackout period soon because of their March 18th meeting. But I think that any kind of hint that something else could be done, that's not priced in. They priced in this meeting yesterday and a little bit this morning, and now they are where they're at trying to build value. But I'm going to draw on here and show you that this is the word we're looking for. Peak. We're looking for someone, whether it's from the WHO or the CDC or both, that starts to use that word peak. Where all the cases, just like a market, they all get clustered and then we get diminishing returns, less cases each day. And then maybe we were helped by Mother Nature and the weather breaks and it gets warmer and that hurts the spread. Then the markets could look around and say, well, what kind of damage was this done? And in the end, we had the Fed turn the spigots on. We had global central banks turn the spigots on, which might offset the economic contraction or damage it might have caused. But we got to get on the other side of this peak. There are going to be more cases. You want to see the case, just like a chart, I think, when you see cases and you don't want to see the case load go like this. You want to see just gradually go up and then, have some of this.
President Macron saying we've entered a phase for coronavirus that will last weeks or months.
But I think this market's going to have to trade around this virus continuing to infect people. Wash your hands and don't touch your face. It's the only two things I could leave you with. Don't wear a mask unless you're sick. And people get the flu all the time, and people don't get the flu all the time. So just because you might be exposed to it doesn't mean you're going to get it. And when you get it, unless you got an underlying condition or you're older, you'll be fine. But just remember this story, Vertigo. It's easy to trust when all the facts are out there. The hardest time to trust is when someone is telling you today is Wednesday and we know it's Tuesday, but maybe it's not Tuesday. They're actually right. But we feel like we feel when we're saying it's Tuesday, right? It's the only thing I know is that today's Tuesday. But what if it wasn't? What if that's the way I feel when I'm long or short at times? There you go, Dale. On the same coaching session. I'm a pilot and a doctor. What other uniform and hat you want me to put on? And there it goes. Dorian says it's Wednesday there, so he's in Australia. Someone can be right when you think it's Tuesday. Every time you're in a trade, just think about that. Am I objective? Am I objective? Am I objective? Am I going to be consistent? Am I supposed to do what I say? How often do I miss? Got to document that. You cannot stop. Cannot stop. You got to trust your instruments. Define what those instruments are and trust them. It's easy to trust them when you're not in the trade. It's hard to trust them when you think they're saying opposite. See you guys tomorrow.